Welcome, everybody. You are getting Lost in Plot, the show where we focus on story first, but not exclusively, across the mediums of film, television, video games, really anything with a story. I'm Wade, that's my brother Jake, and today we are getting lost in Undiscovered Country. So let's get lost in the plot. We're covering the Destiny storyline, which is the first 6 issues of the series. Keep your head down for spoilers. Strap in. Journey into an unknown nation that was once the United States of America. A land that has become shrouded in mystery after walling itself off from the rest of the world without explanation over 30 years ago. When a team seeking a cure for a global pandemic breaches U.S. borders, they find themselves in a desperate struggle for survival in this strange and deadly lost continent. Now, like me, you might be forgiven for expecting a grounded science fiction narrative. It begins with China calling in all its outstanding U.S. debt, destroying the value of the dollar and wreaking havoc on the economy. That leads to recession, to rolling blackouts, and the creation of a mysterious government operation, Project Aurora. But this is all supplemental information. What's going on in the main pages of Undiscovered Country is batshit crazy, and never fails to remind you you're reading a comic book. The Destiny storyline is told in flashbacks. Our 7 heroes have been chosen to enter the U.S. They fly over the seawall and are quickly shot down. From there, we flash back to find out who they are. Issue 1 focuses on Dr. Charlotte Graves, an epidemiologist battling Sky Virus, the plague that's going to wipe out the globe in less than 6 months unless they can find a cure somewhere in the new United States. Issue 2 covers her brother Daniel, a mercenary with questionable loyalties. Issue number 3 might be my favorite, and covers Dr. Ace Kenyatta, an expert on Americana, with a radical theory about how time in the U.S. may be passing a lot faster for its inhabitants than for the rest of the world. Issue 4 covers Valentina Sandoval, a journalist with a magic drone that solves more than its fair share of plot issues. Issue 5 tells the story of Colonel Paweł Bukowski, a Polish pilot and war hero who easily has the worst time out of anybody on this journey. A bison eats off his foot. He's branded with hot irons and hung from the California seawall. Yet he still manages to escape and kick the shit out of everybody with his one foot. How do you not root for that guy? Issue 6 is all action, with our heroes fleeing the villainous Destiny Man as they attempt to find a secret entrance that will allow them to walk the spiral of America to Aurora, who is at the center of the whole thing. Now, Destiny Man is the personification of that bromide, live free or die. It's how he sees America, and he has to prove his vision to Aurora, who exiled him for some reason a long time ago. Now, for Destiny Man, live free or die means survival of the fittest, means a murderous warlord, means genetic mutations, means a guy with horns and a giant lobster claw hand. And that design looks cool, but what the hell? Folks, there was one panel in Undiscovered Country that brought it home for me that I wasn't getting the timely socio-political allegory I had at first expected. That's it. Right there. So this is not a grounded look at the world without the United States. This is Mad Max, Land of the Lost, America gone insane. And that's our plot for Undiscovered Country. Well, there it is. And you hit it on the head. It's a graphic novel. It's basically a comic book. So those looking for that social political allegory, that highbrow commentary, anything along those lines.
Is that wrong to expect something else? Because I found that panel particularly jarring when I got to it.
Well, I felt the same, but by then you kind of knew you're not getting that. You're getting a different tone altogether right in terms of what you've got here. And it's a little disappointing because it seemed like they were going to probe some really interesting areas.
Maybe it's our expectations. Maybe our expectations were off. But when I got there and I couldn't wait to see, well, what's happened to America in 30 years isolated from the rest of the world? And they're riding sharks and lobsters.
That mutant bison ate that guy's foot. That was a cool bison. I liked it. I didn't understand why all the marine biology, quite frankly. I thought they should have just had a fleet of bison. Because what is a bison? It's iconic Americana. It plays a significant role in the history. Yeah. And I thought, oh, that's smart. They should play on that more.
It's appropriate.
But they didn't. Instead, the dude's riding like a starfish or something. I thought that was a missed opportunity. I thought the character design for Destiny Man probably could have had something a bit more thematically appropriate than the bizarre collection of bric-a-brac that you'd expect to be like mounted on the wall of a family dining establishment, and the guy dressed up in it.
Yeah, he's like genetic mutation to the excess. He's like gone out of control. No rules, no regulation, no governance. That's him, down to a T. And, I'm sure we'll get explanations for a lot of this crazy shit that we saw, but at the same time, I'm reading through it, and it's just like, do I want to really continue on with this? Am I that hooked to find out why they're riding shrimp around the desert of the West?
Never explained, to my knowledge.
But I think they will. And by they, let's talk about who wrote this.
That's right. Now, say my name.
So we have two very experienced authors behind Undiscovered Country. Scott Snyder and Charles Soule have teamed up for this one. And what's unique about this project is, while they were writing these first few issues, they were also working on a feature film adaptation of the story.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Working on the screenplay at the exact same time.
So you could tell they felt really good about what they had here.
It's already been optioned. Gotta feel good about that. Now, I'll be honest. I'm a huge fan of Scott Snyder. He's one of my favorites, which is a big reason why I wanted to pick Undiscovered Country and talk about it. Charles Soule, I'm less familiar with. Now, this is a book from Image Comics. Charles Soule has another one called Curse Words that I haven't read. But Scott Snyder has been through a lot of properties. So is Charles Soule. But Scott Snyder I know better. He did American Vampire. He had an amazing, phenomenal run on Batman. One of the reasons I think I like him so much.
So you're a big fan. You knew the name coming in, and you had high hopes. How did
his name, that concept, I was sold immediately. I had very high expectations.
So how does it rank compared to the other works? I mean, for you, I haven't read some of his previous works, so I'm not as familiar.
Well, it's his previous works, it's Scott Snyder flying solo. So this is a little bit different because it's injected with a mix of him and Charles Soule, who I am not as familiar with.
Collaboration.
Right. So I see a few of the hallmarks, but like I said, even I was kind of jarred by the turnaround once they land in the United States, and it's literally Mad Max with mutant sea animals running around the place. It wasn't what I was expecting, but I give a lot of faith and credit to him as a writer. So I'm willing to keep going with the journey up to a point, but if we're talking about whether I'd recommend this, whether I get to the end of these 6 issues and want to continue on, well, we'll find out.
Well, I've got my own thoughts, so let's get to breaking the story. Over the past several years, certain toy companies have made a practice of selling toys to kids in what they call blind bags. The idea being is that a child purchases a toy, but they don't know which toy they're going to get until they unwrap the layers of packaging that it comes in. The thought being that the excitement will only increase as you peel back layer after layer trying to discover your surprise. But ultimately, those children are going to be underwhelmed because it's the same plastic toy you can find on any shelf in any store, anywhere. And that's a little bit how I felt when I was reading Undiscovered Country. It promises intrigue. The United States has been sealed off for 30 years amidst a global pandemic until a secret communication invites a select group of individuals inside the walls with the promise of a cure. Immediately, the mystery box starts working on you. Your imagination begins firing off all these fantastic scenarios of things that could be lurking on the other side of that wall. But, as we've mentioned, the problem is when you get on the other side of that wall, it's pretty much Mad Max. And instead of driving around in souped-up cars, all the savages wandering the wastelands are riding dolphins and whales and even starfish through the desert. The problem in dealing with mystery boxes is you run a very significant risk of disappointing your audience if the idea at the end is neither interesting nor unique enough to justify all the layers of mystery. When your audience is dreaming up the fantastic and you deliver the familiar, they're going to be underwhelmed. And unfortunately, because I really wanted to like this, it was underwhelming for me.
Yeah, I see your point. I think there's some fantastic concepts that are happening here. And I go back to issue number 3, which was my favorite. The fact that time in the U.S. might be passing much faster for everyone inside than it is for the rest of the world. And Ace Kenyatta is desperate to prove his sanity just by running one simple test to find out how quickly is time passing. And it's an amazing scene at the end where he actually oxidizes the penny and gets his answer, and it's even worse than he thought. I mean, there are some very cool concepts, but is the general arc of pushing through it. Like, I was expecting, shut the doors of the U.S. for 30 years and now come back to it. I wasn't expecting the landscape to be completely remade.
No, you could have made anything.
Taken back to frontier days. And I mean, granted, they have different sections of the map of the United States, and we're in the Destiny section. I think Volume 2 goes into the Unity section. So we could even get wildly different variations of the geography in further issues. But I haven't continued. I haven't read beyond Volume 1. Yeah, I stopped there. So I don't know.
That's the thing. It's derivative. And we had the promise of something more here. I mean, had I told you that the premise was something like a group of survivors have to traverse the United States, a post-apocalyptic wasteland in hopes of finding a cure for a global pandemic, you'd be like, all right, it's not bad, but it's familiar.
Yeah.
It's not as sexy as the premise I gave before because it doesn't have that level of intrigue. And when you look at it that way, you're just like, well, it could be good. It's really going to depend upon the execution and the level of the ideas on display here.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I could not get through this without thinking and having flashbacks to the television show Lost, in terms of how the narrative story is done with the flashbacks to the one character per episode, and some of the things you mentioned in terms of we're bending reality and we're bending time potentially in this different realm that we're living in, and the properties of reality might not exist here. It was kind of the same way at the island in Lost. And that was a really compelling show that I loved and watched the hell out of, right up until the end when you realized they were selling you a bag of goods, and they didn't have anything.
Well, I know Scott Snyder from his other work, and he's kind of awesome at pulling it all together in the end, and like pulling these disparate elements into something really profound and interesting by the end of the story. And I have confidence that he might do that here, but if I'm a consumer at the end of the day and I've read through the 6 issues, am I going back for number 7? Like, how far am I going to ride the crazy train of America, the spiral?
How far will you walk the spiral? Have you gotten off the journey already, or are you going to continue on? Yeah, I mean, it's a good, fair point, and I think that the Volume 1 has the unfortunate thing of basically saying, all right, time to pop open the mystery box, and now you get into the United States and see what it is. And I think they said, well, you know, it may be derivative of other things that you've seen, Mad Max and other things that we've mentioned, but we'll add value to it by stuffing it in a mystery box. Unfortunately, I think it backfired and worked against them.
Yeah, and I could have used more from the villain, Destiny Man. I mean, he's got an interesting design, but he's like a masked genetic character in a whole host of like masked freaks out there in the desert. He's driving around in a Walmart on wheels through the desert of America, and there's not much more to him than live free or die. Now, I think there could be, because, you know, if they're going to continue with the format of the flashbacks, it'd be fascinating to see a flashback to his story, the man he was before all this genetic mutation made him go into a psycho warlord driving around the desert like that.
Right.
I'd be interested in that story, but did I have enough here to really make him compelling and stand out? No, but that's still hanging out there anytime you want to come back to it.
Yeah, and you know they're going to give you something. You're going to find out what's behind the exterior.
And I had written off the pilot, Pavel Bukowski. I'd written that guy off when he lost his foot.
No way, man. He rides the starfish. Ride the starfish.
You're the first one to go, brother. And then, no.
That buffalo ate his foot! A bison ate his foot! It was a really cool sequence. The guy riding the buffalo, amazing imagery. And I wish they would have used a little bit more of that instead of kind of the more derivative Mad Max stuff. But I really like that part. Buffalo ate his foot!
Now, is he like the immigrant that comes to America, you think, and has the very difficult time and has to overcome all these obstacles to make it? Is that what you think they're saying with him? I mean, I guess we could draw that line if we wanted to.
Sure, I guess you could, but it didn't really resonate for me that that's what they were aiming at, or that's what they were trying to stick.
Yeah.
Don't you wish you had an all-purpose drone to fly around and solve story issues for you?
My life would be much better.
Everyone should have such a drone.
Yeah, anytime they're running into a plot issue in these first 6 issues, fucking drone's gonna come by and save the day.
Useful drone.
If we could all be so lucky.
Well, let's see if the drone can save them in our next segment, Dead or Alive.
It's that time, it's Dead or Alive. So let's find out what we thought about Undiscovered Country. I'll go first because Scott Snyder's my guy.
He's your boy.
He's my man.
You had high hopes for
High
this.
hopes, high expectations. Now, as I said, a lot of the characters didn't resonate for me. Some did. I really liked issue 3 with Ace Kenyatta. I liked the story of Colonel Pavel Bukowski. I mean, I thought he was an awesome underdog character. Now, the Graves twins, who used to be in the United States and have some kind of intrigue going to them returning, didn't do as much for me. And then Valentina was probably my least favorite character because the drone just did everything for her to an extent.
But she's a journalist, and she wanted to know the truth. She
Yeah.
was in pursuit of the truth as a journalist. What a novel thing.
There's mystery, there's intrigue, but we're so far out of left field here that I don't know how much further down the rabbit hole I'm willing to go. So, is it dead or alive? I come down to the fact that I've just gone through 6 issues, and it should be a very simple question to answer. Do I want to come back for issue number 7? And I'm at a point where I flip a coin. Ooh, I flip a coin. So I am going to go with a 5 out of 10 for Undiscovered Country. I don't know. I don't know if
And
I
that's
come
your
back
boy, too.
to
It
read
pains
another
him.
issue.
It pains him to give out that 5 out of 10.
If I did come back, it would be because that Scott Snyder is writing, and I have utmost faith in him that by the end of this series, he's going to give me something really worthwhile and a payoff of all my time. So it's a 5 out of 10. It's kind of in that zombie territory for me between Dead or Alive. But that's where I have Undiscovered Country, 5 out of 10 for me.
And I'm looking at it through a somewhat similar lens. Now, my big disappointment is obviously inflated expectations, lots of hype, unbelievable mystery boxes, and then just kind of is where it goes out, okay? But what they had here didn't offend me, and I wouldn't even call it bad. Is it super unique and interesting? Not as much as it probably could have been, and that's my big knock against it. If I saw Volume 2 on the shelf at the bookstore the next time would I get it? Yeah, I probably would. Because he did enough here, and I'd love to see this filmed. I think it would look awesome on film. It'd be quite a spectacle to see.
The starfish?
Yeah, these guys rise to starfish. So yeah, and if I'm interested enough to see Volume 2, I think he's done his job. So it's difficult because it is Volume 1 of an unfinished work, and I can't judge the entire thing. But as an appetizer, as an introduction, I had higher hopes. It let me down a little bit, but not to the point that it, reviled me where I will avoid it. So I guess it's on life support. It's still breathing. I'd probably give it about a 6 out of 10 in terms of how it starts. So that's my number. It's going to be 6 out of 10. Still breathing for me. Undiscovered Country.
You'll be going for their Volume 2, the Unity storyline.
Right, the Unity, whatever that is. We're going to keep walking the spiral and find out what the Unity is, apparently.
America.
Well, that's it for us. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave us some thumbs. If you really like it, leave us a subscription because we are going to be back. If there are graphic novels that you love, those rare uncut gems that haven't seen enough of the light of day, please let us know in the comment section down below. We'd love to read them too and tell you what we think about them. That's it for us today. We're going to see you on the next one.